All right, guys, gonna try and go live here. I'm getting absolutely blitzed with bandwidth right now, thanks to Thinkorswim. A ton of volume coming through the market right here, so just bear with me for a minute. If the screen's a little choppy, it should go away. Should go back to normal in the next minute or so. So just bear with me for 1 minute here. I figured, I started writing a bunch of notes down, and then I realized, well, none of this is going to really, everything's going to be affected by Microsoft and Google. So I could say something about the price action today, and that could be totally changed here based on the earnings here. So it's just, I don't want to have to write notes all over again. So, but anyway, market getting rocked here. Tesla totally barfing. Spiders barfing, VIX ripping into the close here. So here we go. Here's the close. All right, so there's the bell, and hopefully the bandwidth does ease up a little bit here. All right, so Google closing at 2390 and Microsoft at 270. So keep an eye on those here. Spiders really barfed right into the gap fill. Right there. So to close at 417, and then we got one right there too at 416.25, which looks like it just came close to filling. Actually, no, that did fill. So 416.07 was the low of the day. So we did fill that gap. Interesting. And interesting how liquidity, how dry the liquidity was today. So we had a nice reversal with good volume yesterday. It wasn't surprising to me that we came down and retested the lows by any stretch. But look at the liquidity, though. It's like they were searching for some type of liquidity all day long and just couldn't really get it. Doesn't look like we got earnings out just yet, so we'll keep an eye out for that. We can talk about Tesla. So Tesla getting hit here through that 200 moving average. You are coming into that weekly 50 as well. We got some support around 872 for that. But if it gets through that, you got 850 right there. Sounds good? All right, cool. Good, good. Everything is the stream look okay? I know it was choppy a minute ago, but I know there was a ton of bandwidth coming through all my programs here because of all the volume in the last 10 minutes. All right, so Google dipping down to 266. Doesn't look like that's doing a whole lot. Let's flip over here. What am I doing here? There we go. All right, so Google getting hit here, 2310. Microsoft 270. Let me split these up here. See if we can do this. All right, so Microsoft dipping down, both Microsoft and Google dipping right down. Now Microsoft right back flat here. So Microsoft green now. Let's see if that can hold. Google now red. That doesn't necessarily look like Google's out to me. It looks like that was just a hit, some order down there. Microsoft is definitely out though. Let's take a look here, see if I can find the report. Alphabet beating earnings, 20.09 billion, estimated 19.7. Microsoft beating 49.36 billion, estimated 49.04. So both of them just beat. But really kind of flattish here. Microsoft popping up. I think guidance is really going to matter for these ones right now because, nobody cares about last quarter, but we're looking for is next quarter with, rate hikes and so on and so forth. Yeah, stable. Yep. So far, well, I think guidance is going to change. If if they guide, really good, it could be super positive, because if you're factoring in those rate hikes and they're still guiding good, that would be a bullish sign. Now Google dipping a little bit here. Let's see. I'm just waiting on the headlines to roll out here. Microsoft looks like it's relatively stable though, so we'll see. What's up, Kevin? Remember, Kevin, we're testing the 1929 lows by June. All right, let me, I'm going to detach this and we can go back on. We can look at this later here. Let's see. Let's see. So Spider's holding up at slightly lower after hours here. Looks like Google's getting dragged down a bit. Google's dragging it down a little bit, but Microsoft's stable, and it's strange because it's not really moving much. It's down at 2290, but it's kind of just hanging in there. Let me flip back over here. Let's take a look at the spiders. Let's look at the E-mini. I'm losing my mouse there. Okay. So we're talking about monthly 20 MA. Yeah, so it's got that, the monthly 20 MA there. It's hammered on it 3 times, though. Let's see. What I'm really looking at, though, here is this green bar low, which kind of coincides with that monthly. So that's the level that got defended. That's where you had the reversal. So again, it doesn't, we could have some type of sell-off this week, but I don't expect it to last very long, to be completely honest. Bearish sentiment's already really high, and I feel like a lot of this bad news is priced in, personally. All right, now Microsoft now dipping a little bit down to 266. Google's kind of just hanging in that 2290 area. Let's see. So that's right in this range, around 2300, just below 2300. There is some good support in here. I mean, you got this chop area, and then if you were to get through that, you got this whole area right here. If we look on the weekly, there's the weekly 100, and you got this little pivot low right in there. So we're still well above that. The 2390. That's really, or excuse me, 2270. Sorry. Yeah, so really hovering right above that area. Yeah, all in at the lows, yeah. 22, yeah, so what I was just saying to you, Kevin, before the close, yeah, 2270 and then 2230, I think you were saying. So right in there, or 2255, I said. So it's hanging right in this area. Right around that 100 MA. Microsoft looks to be holding up a little bit better. Now down to 261. So that's right into its 100-week moving average. So there's a lot of support in here. So that's through the monthly 20 MA, though. Interesting, interesting. Let's look at a couple of things. Semiconductors were holding up pretty well earlier in the day, and then everything kind of just rolled over here. I just drew in this downsloping trend line as well. We'll check back in on Microsoft and Google later, but I want to go through the sectors like normal here. So I got this downsloping trend line here. So it'd be interesting if we got into this area. So you got some pivots down here. This is where you had that bear flag that failed. So that's usually where the institutions are sitting. That's where they broke it out. So usually that's where they got their money sitting. You also have these pivots down here, this consolidation. So semis are really close to some serious levels, and they are pretty oversold. So that could get a bounce in that area if we gap down. IGV, so cloud basically testing double bottom. We'll see what happens with that. There's also that downsloping trend line that I had on from last month that I thought would get hit. And we may need to extend that. So it's pretty far down there, though. I don't know if we get that far low on cloud just yet. But in any case, it is there. Let's see, Dow Transport's rolled over pretty nicely as well, but actually holding up okay, relatively speaking. Not really the worst worst look, all things considered. So Microsoft down to 263. Looks like it's stabilizing down there. Google at 2235 in that area. So it's kind of hanging in there. All right, Dow Transport's rates here. Rates continuing to pull back. They did come off the lows. Again, really overbought in this area. They might, you know, just have a little tail candle here. It could get a bounce and eventually get up to that 3% area. So I've been talking about that happening, and you know, you kind of basically kiss the 20 moving average. You could kind of say it's an overbought kiss, I guess. Nothing to say it can't push up and have one more little run at that 3% level. So I've been looking for that for a while, and that might be what it needs to actually top out. 30-year also, you know, not a terrible pattern here, but it is overbought still. But it is holding up. And HYG actually not taking out the lows. So this one's been a strange one. You know, had that reversal yesterday, but it didn't lose the lows today. So I guess not the worst look there for high yield debt. Home builders also getting hit, but again, still holding the lows. So we have like these weird pockets of strength today. ITB, also a home builder, didn't even really take out half of yesterday's reversal on the way back down. VNQ did have a little bit of a pullback here, but it is holding that tail low for now. So it's hanging in there. XLF, basically holding double bottoms. We'll have to watch that by the end of the week. Really needs to hold that on a weekly close, I think. And broker dealers also losing those lows as well. But again, you take a look at that 400 level. Right in there, you got that pivot high. Had to pull back. That's where you broke out. So there should be a good level in that area. So there's a lot of support down here in these areas here on some of these names. But, you know, sometimes when you get this close, and I said this before, you know, back when we were right down here, I said, you know, sometimes when you get this close to a level, sometimes you just have to go down. And it's like a magnet. Sometimes you have to go down there and test it. And that could be the case. Now Spider's at 414. So here we go. So, you know, we could gap down tomorrow. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. We'll see if we get any covering going into that. It looks like they, you know, to me, I said this all day long, but it looks like they're really searching for liquidity down here and they can't get it. And they really need a gap down in order to get that liquidity. When you look at the volume here, for a sell-off, a 3% sell-off here in the spiders, to have below average volume is very, very rare, like very rare. So it's like they're trying to get people to barf up their shares, and it's just not happening. So they got to force it to happen, essentially. But let's see. So we talked about fins here, broker dealers. Energy, crude got a nice bounce today. Had a nice outside day, so maybe that can move back up a little bit. But it is hanging in there. And again, like I was just saying with rates, you know, if rates do move up a little bit, that could help crude. You know, that could make crude move up, and maybe it tries to go up and hit that 110 level. You got this pivot here at 109.20, but if it can't take that out, you still have lower highs. And I mean, you still could technically have lower highs anyway, because you really have to get out above 117 to really negate this one. This is a bigger pivot to me, but it did make a slight higher low, so we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. XLE managed to scratch green here. So again, rates kind of coming off the lows today is probably helping out these energy stocks. XOP did finish red here. OIH also finishing flattish to green, but did get rejected at that 50 moving average. So some of these energy plays are looking a little weaker here, all things considered. Nat gas came off the highs, but actually not a terrible look here. This should still get up to 725, maybe 750. I really wish that yesterday I really just wish it hung out in this 640, 643, 645 range for longer, because as soon as the market opened, it just really took off. You know, right, boom, just took right off to the upside, and I didn't want to chase it up here. And you eventually got a nice back test here today, but it is coming off the lows. I still think nat gas does get up to that 725, 750 level, though. But kind of a pause day there altogether. Dollar index continuing higher here. So the dollar just continues to pound higher. 102.33. This is getting close to double top, though. So we're coming up here. Double tops around 10, yeah, call it 103. So it's, you know, it's very close. It probably overshoots, honestly. A lot of the time you see these things overshoot here. If you look on a monthly, you know, there it is. Maybe you can get up to 103, 104, which is where you had these. So this is really a triple top if you think about it. But right in that area, there's probably going to be some resistance. But again, it can always overshoot. Gold here pausing, nothing really significant going on today. GDX testing the lows again. This looks like it wants to go lower, but it is short-term way oversold. Silver, same kind of deal. SILJ losing the lows here. This one looks like it wants to go lower also. And platinum hanging on by a thread here, but I still think this has to go lower. And palladium basically holding that level there. Copper, same kind of deal, trying to hold that 200 moving average, but pretty good beat down there on copper. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Yeah, so Bitcoin taking out that tail. So that inside bar looks like it's going to play out. The inside bar patterns are really good. So we had that fake breakout, came back down, and I thought you had a chance to hold it because you tested this low twice. It tried to break down twice, and it was able to bounce back up, but looks like it wasn't able to hold. So Bitcoin may want to go down to this 36,000 area. You got some pivots down here. Obviously, these tails there in that area, but yeah, Bitcoin's a little softer. I thought I had a good chance to move back up yesterday. Ether there, hanging on. Doge, oh, look at that reversal on Dogecoin. Yeah, let's look back over at Google here. Yeah, so back up to 2291. Microsoft back to 270. Microsoft looks okay, honestly. Microsoft's dead cat bouncing, and Microsoft may even be able to get away with a flat open tomorrow. This back to 269 now. So it'd be interesting if they test these lows tomorrow. Like, let's say they gap down and we flush down to 260, and then maybe if you can get a tail candle, that would probably signal some type of a lows in. Google obviously much weaker, almost back up to 2300 though. So it went all the way down to, it was 2235, I think it was as low as it got. So it went all the way down here, and now it's back up to 2300. Yeah, Microsoft now positive. Yeah, Microsoft's bidding up here. See, the spider's back to 415. I think they probably flush us down tomorrow morning. And then I think, like you said, Kevin, they probably cover like maybe into Thursday, Friday, or Monday. I think they're going to get a lot of people to buy puts tomorrow morning. And we got, see, FOMC on the 3rd and 4th, right? Yeah. It would be ridiculous though if we had the same exact setup as last month. I mean, if they actually do the same exact thing again, that would be ridiculous. 26% increase in cloud revenue. Huh. See, IGV. IGV is pretty thin after hours. Microsoft makes up a big chunk of IGV, though. Yeah. That's what I think Tesla was doing today, honestly. I think they were using the cover, the burning options premium. I think they were using the cover of Twitter to just burn out premium, honestly. It feels like this has been it really feels like the whole last month has been one giant OpEx week, doesn't it? Just been like herky jerky, no trend, a lot of sideways action. Even with this sell-off here, Like, I mean, this is a pretty spectacular sell-off. It's been like 8% here since last Thursday. And look at, I mean, the trading volume's not that heavy, you know, considering the amount that we've sold off. It just feels like a really burny type of environment here. Very tough. And the VIX here, I know I mentioned this to you guys earlier, but VIX at 33.5 here. That's what it closed at. And let me go check what the put call closed at. So put call composite closed at 1.08, just under 1.08 today, which is a whole 24 bips lower than where it closed Friday. Yet the VIX is significantly higher than its Friday close. So there's some weird, you know, there's some BS going on in the hood, if you ask me. Yeah, this one's a little bit different. I used the one on TradingView, but yeah, it's still the same thing. You're much lower than Friday's high here. And yet the VIX is obviously higher. Let's see what Apple is doing. Yeah, Apple closing below that 200. So last time you had a fake out here, close below that 200. And now you do have a lower high here, but you also have a higher high as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. I mean, maybe this gets back down to 152. I'd say there's a fair amount of support in that area, at least in the near term. It's holding up though. It's 155.5 right now after hours. Let's look at Amazon. Amazon hanging in there for now. Only down 20 points after hours. Microsoft up since Microsoft settling at 272. And 2287 we got here on Google. So Google looks like it's settling down. And we talked about this earlier, but you know, at least they actually bought at least they actually were smart enough to buy. Look at what they did to Google here. Just gapped it down with puts. Microsoft gapped it down with puts. You know, nobody wanted to be the next Bill Ackman, and they're like, yeah, we should probably hedge here. So I figure a lot of the downside that we're seeing is probably priced in just based on the fact that there was enough hedging being done. And when you get that expectation of a crash, it kind of lessens the blow whenever the news actually comes out. So we're seeing these start to stabilize a little bit here, but obviously not a good look anyway you slice or dice it. That's a pretty clean break there on Google, but it probably gets up there and retests that at some point. Let's look at VZ. Wow. Geez, they must have just reported, right? Let me take a look. I know AT&T reported. Did they report? Hold on. $422. Okay, yeah, they did on the 22nd. I know they moved up in sympathy with AT&T when AT&T reported. So yeah, they did report here. Wow, that's a pretty big beatdown. There's something wrong with the company. Because this is a stock that, with high rates, yeah, the reason why I wanted to own this back in November and December, luckily we made money both times we traded it, so that was nice, but this thing's been, I would avoid it right now. I can tell you right now just by looking at it. Yeah, look at this monthly. So move down here, and then you got kind of a little dead cat bounce, and then you got rejected here. This probably wants to head lower. I'm surprised that this stock is moving lower the way it is, though. This is a type of stock that should be doing well in a high rate environment. Same thing with AT&T. AT&T is actually held up. So the low is actually put in back in December. But Verizon, I mean, man, this is short-term oversold. This should get a good bounce here coming up shortly, but that is not a good look. Because look at some of the stocks that Kim Clark. There's a reason why I wanted to be in Kim Clark. There's a reason why I almost picked up Procter Gamble in here. It started to run, it basically ran on me. But if you'll recall, I was looking at picking it up right here on this bullish pattern, and it had a nice move off of that. But some of these other, boring names, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, these are the types of things that work in high rate environments. And, but, it is a Buffett stock, so there's a chance they pay a dividend. This is the type of stock you should want to own in a recession. So I'm not really sure what's wrong with it. But technically it does not look good right now, unless it reverses by the end of the week or end of the month, maybe. Yeah, Bitcoin took a hit. It's a little bit off the lows right now, though. I thought it had a good chance to move up yesterday because you had these two tails right here. There's a lot of the time when you have like a bearish pattern and they try to break it down twice and they fail. Usually it goes in the other direction, but Bitcoin getting hit in sympathy with, because Bitcoin is basically just a leveraged NASDAQ, right? I mean, that's essentially all it is at this point. Verizon lost subscribers, huh? I guess everybody's losing subscribers now, huh? Netflix, Verizon, geez. But, I'd have to look into that, though, Henry, because I wonder if, I know Netflix, a lot of 700,000 of the subscribers they lost was to Russia. So I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Let's look at, let's see. I don't know if that's it on Google. I think it's more just the market is, okay, they beat, but what are they going to do next quarter? Because if rates go up, these tech stocks are not, aren't going to hold up as well. But Microsoft is stabilizing here, though. It's stabilizing at the flat line, so. Yeah, let's look at American Airlines. So I was saying this over the weekend. I actually don't hate the airliners right now. And they've been really a dog for the last year, but they're actually showing that they can hold up right now. What you want to look here is if this can make a higher low, this can run at probably, 22.50, 23. I believe I was saying on the Jets, 24, 25. 25 would be the high end, but these charts aren't terrible right now. So you compare that with the triple Qs, which has been slaughtered really over the last month, and you look at Jets, and over the last month, it put in a low in March, and it's pretty much gone right up. But I don't hate these. I actually wanted to get on this long here at one point, just never really got the right pattern. But yeah, I have no problem with American Airlines right now. I think the best inflation hedge is honestly canned food. It's so hard to find a good inflation hedge in stocks. I think, like personally though, I think we could be topping out here in the inflation trade, honestly. Especially if I mean, basically bonds are going to be the tell sign here. But I think there's a really good chance that bonds may have possibly bottomed here. But we'll have to see a little bit more probably in the next week. And obviously after the FOMC. Yeah, I mean, Dave, yeah, there's a lot of things. Yeah, things are changing now. There's a lot of different things, and they come at you fast. I mean, you got to figure, what, 2 years ago, the pandemic happened, and we had about 10 years of evolution in 2 months. So nobody knew what Zoom was in March 2020, and everybody knew what it was in April. I mean, it was a huge adjustment. So there's a lot of, I mean, we're basically going through a rapid evolution right now. So there's a lot of, it's not as simple as, oh, just buy a, Mosaic and, rip it up. Look what happened to Mosaic. I mean, if you FOMO'd in here at 75, you're already out of the money by 10, 12%. Yes, David. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was, and that's what, Verizon typically is, something that I was looking at. AT&T ended up being a good one. Um, but I said all the other ones I said, PG, Coca-Cola, Kim Clark, Church Dwight, um, Clorox, although Clorox got hit pretty hard in February. But so it's kind of hit and miss. Yeah, canned food. Think about it though. Think about it, Arthur. Canned food. So there's plenty of stocks you can find that have done poorly over the last decade, but canned food certainly has performed really well. Yeah, gold's holding up. I mean, it's a stable asset. There's a reason why it's stable. Um, I still think it probably needs to come down and hit 1875, but it's holding its ground. It had kind of a little bit of a bearish chop here. Then it got up to 2000 and then kind of dipped down. It probably does need to go lower though, but it's holding up though, and that's what gold does. A capitulation move. So usually, or actually almost always, it's going to be a gap down with heavy volume. So right here would be a good example. Right here is a good example. When you see heavy, heavy, heavy volume, and it's usually a gap down, and you see, really there's no bull, nobody willing to buy. That's capitulation. But really the volume is the telltale sign. Right now we don't have it. There's not enough liquidity really, and that's why the market keeps going lower. VXX isn't a hedge for anything anymore. VXX is still broken, if I'm not mistaken. Oops. But it's holding up. This is like I don't even know why they let this thing trade anymore. It's a completely broken asset at this point. I'd say selling calls on VXX is a good inflation hedge. Yeah, so for SSO, we're probably looking, I mean, probably this week, if not early next week. We could, there's a good chance we could come down and test the lows here, but I don't expect it to last very long. It's going to be a lot like last month. Yeah, Mosaic, NTR. Yeah. Chevron. Obviously, you guys know we're short this. The XLE stocks. But I think we're starting to see cracks of inflation causing demand destruction. And it can take time for it to play out, but I think that's going to be the next narrative, probably in the next 6 to 8 months. Kevin, if you ever make me angry, I'm going to hack your account and make you buy Shopify. Because I know that's your favorite company. Walmart, yeah, Walmart's done well. Anything that pays a dividend, anything that's boring, even if you bought Verizon back here, you're still basically flat, and they've been paying you to own it. So it's not like the end of the world, really. But Walmart's done well. Usually, they're a recession stock. I think Philip Morris reported recently. It doesn't look like they did anything, but you know, it's been holding up. Let's check on old Budweiser. Budweiser's basically been sideways. Sam Adams, that's been a week. That's been a dog. Costco finally has come in a little bit here. You know, and I think Costco, you know, I guess it's a recession stock, but this thing is ridiculous. This is my new pig stock here. I mean, like, yeah, great, it's a great company, but we're trading at a 40 forward PE. I don't know, I'm sorry. Like, you think that, you know, Microsoft's valuation is bad? Like, this is pretty ridiculous. This is trading like a, you know, a growth, a tech stock. Well, yeah, real estate would be a good inflation hedge for sure. But so here's the thing with people calling a top in real estate, basically what they're saying is there's going to be a top in inflation at some point. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to top forever. Inflation is going to top forever because governments, like you guys are saying, the government will always create inflation, but there are periods where it just really, I think we're in a unique situation where the government can't just, you know, the Fed would love to just do more QE, but they can't because this Fed has never been faced with this type of inflation. The last 13, everybody says, oh, just buy every dip, just buy every dip. But this Fed has never been faced with this type of inflation. So I think they're going to have to let the air out of this for a while. And then eventually they'll be able to, you know, they'll go back. And once they have rates up to whatever percent they have, now they have ammo, right? So they can lower interest rates the next time there's a crisis. So they're kind of, you know, it's just this big cycle that happens, and but they'll have bullets because, you know, like for years you hear on Zero Hedge, oh, the Fed is out of bullets, the Fed's out of bullets. Well, now they're kind of like reloading, I guess. You don't like Shopify, Kevin? You fix. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think that, yeah. So yeah, markets would have lower, bonds would head lower, or excuse me, bonds would bid. And I think, you know, bonds do the Fed's job for it for a while. Remember, like our bond market, believe it or not, still isn't broken. And if you need proof of that, just look at the dollar index. Investors right now are from all over the world are pouring into US because where are you going to go? You're going to go to Japan? That's a joke. You're going to go to Europe? That's a joke too. You're going to go to Russia? You can't. They're sanctioned. You're going to go to China? Yeah, okay. Nobody trusts China. So you have to go to the US. So believe it or not, our bond market isn't as broken. I mean, it's broken, but not nearly as bad as everybody else's. So investors can do the Fed's job for it for a little while. Yeah, Kroger. There's another Buffett stock. I heard they're trying to kick him off of the, not out of Berkshire, but remove his controlling stake or something. Yes, yes, Henry. Costco is the new SE. It's the new Crocs. And hopefully, look at Crocs. Look at the amount of air that came out of this bag. Holy crap. I had this fib on here for a while. Look at held that 618 for a little bit. This is going back to 40 bucks though. Look at that. That is unbelievable. And SE, same thing. Look at that. Yeah, I mean this could, yeah, this is $50, $60 stock soon. Right, but David, when has anybody actually cared about real rates? When has Wall Street ever cared about that? I think you're close, Dan. I think I mean, I'm in TLT. Full disclosure, I'm in it. I don't have a huge position in it. I hope that in 6 months I'm not kicking myself for having a small position in it, but I think you're in a good area right here. So I've been showing this to everybody. I mean, I like these trend lines. You know, you could go down and hit that 200. I would love for it because I can add to it. I would love to add to it there, but I think we're getting pretty close to some type of pivot here in bonds. And bonds are usually the canary in the coal mine. They'll usually tell you what's going on. I know, I know a few people who have sold their houses, Jay, and I mean they plan to rebuy, but yeah, I mean it's a decision you got to make. But I mean in California though, geez, yeah, that market's a mess. All right, let's go back and check here. Let's see what these. All right, Google's back down to 22. That's rolled back down to 22.35. Microsoft settling at about 267 here. It's rolling back over a little bit, but it looks like most of the fireworks are over with. Let's see. Dollar to the moon. Yeah, for a little bit longer, I think. I think it's got a little bit longer to go. And I don't think, yeah, I don't think the real estate market's necessarily broke yet. I mean, you look at the VNQ, like these REIT stocks have held up. The home builders have been piss poor, and I've been waiting for a good chance to short them. They just won't give me a good bounce. They're so weak, they don't even bounce enough. But, yeah, this ain't a bad pattern here on the weekly, honestly, to short. Maybe we'll just jump in with one and throw a 10% stop on it and just let it go. But the realist, like the VNQ is actually holding up okay. Veiled, yeah. You know what? I don't know if you were with us, PR, but this was this is a stock that we bought at about $12, and I wasn't, I didn't know it was going to go up to 21. Otherwise, I would have held it the whole way. But we made a nice little gain on it back in November. But yeah, I would love to basically double my money. That would have been nice. But yeah, that's one. Look at that move, though. Look at that move. I mean, what is this? See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days in a row. That should get, I might even, that actually looks attractive for a dead cat bounce right here. If that can gap down tomorrow on panic, I might pick that. Probably will pick that up. Yeah, Josh, I think they're, yeah, like, you got this down sloping trend line here, and then right in here is this pivot low, and then this one, and then you got this consolidation here. But this is the big level here. So see right here, you had this kind of bearish chop. So you came down and you started to go sideways. Then you gapped down and you reversed. It takes institutional money to make it reverse like that. So to me, that's where they're sitting. Doesn't mean it can't pierce through it a little bit, you know, maybe gap down to 220, but it does look really oversold. And it's into a good level. You could even make a case like, you know, look how steep of decline that is. So I mean, you could say there's a falling wedge there. I know Kevin loves his falling wedgies, so maybe he'll like this one too. Yeah, you had an appraiser come to your house. That's yeah, I bet. So XOP. Well, I've been saying these things are overbought here. They probably, you know, this probably will chop around here. Ultimately it's probably going to go back down and test 115 at some point. 'Cause that's where you broke out of. So usually you get those retests. If you remember, like a month ago, I was talking about this 100-month moving average. You went right up into that, so we're getting a reaction off of that. So not surprising there. Yeah, I would say 115 is going to have to go back and retest eventually, but it probably chops around in this area first. Oh, let's see. Oh, you mean like that? Yeah, I mean, I guess. This is a bit of a wider chop, it looks like, but yeah, it's possible. But you'd be going into, look what you're going into, though. Look what you're going into here. 400, 390. You're 382 at 380. So again, these types of moves happen really fast. And then they're over with. Okay. All right. So Microsoft settling here at about 266. Google at about 230, 231, 234. So hanging in there all together. See what spiders are at 413. And triple Q's at 312. Well, triple Q's taking a bigger hit, obviously. Three 312. Let's see. Let's take a look at the triple Q's here. I mean, I would love for the Q's to get to 300 in one shot. That's just too much support there. But I mean, you have 50% retrace at 285, I guess. Think about that. 285 would be 50% away from the March 2020 lows. But you got this pivot here. And these pivot lows right at 300 or so. So that is a good level there. And then, of course, if you get through that, yeah, 385. Or 285, excuse me. So those are your downside areas on the Qs if it gets down there. I don't know if you saw, I did go over Basile, but I'll go over it one more time. I do like it if we had like 12 down days in a row, I think I counted. If we can gap down into this area, I'll probably take a shot at it with a small position for a long. I like that $15 area right here. It's so oversold. I would love for it to gap down tomorrow and get into that area. Another chart I think is pretty interesting too is CRM here. Right in this zone is really good support here. This is oversold going into it too. I'd love to get it down to 160. not a terrible look there. Yeah, Kevin, I think that was kind of like my original scenario, right? Earlier this year. We bought them sometime in June or July. And then we'll kind of see from there. But I try to take things like quarter by quarter here because it's hard to go out that far and really, the farther you go out, the more margin for error there really is. Like I can predict the weather for the next week, but predicting the weather a year from now is impossible. But it's certainly possible. Definitely put it on. Definitely have that scenario mapped out already. So, well, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Yeah, thanks everybody coming out. Normally, obviously, I would have done it a little bit differently, but with earnings on Microsoft and Google, I started writing some notes down, and I was like, I can't even